Hello and welcome to this video series brought to you by the Economic Times, ETCIO, in association with SAS. My name is Muqbil Ahmed and I am at the SAS Innovate on Tour event being held in Mumbai. I am the executive editor at ETCIO and the host for this session. Now, before we move forward with this discussion, I would like to set some context. Now, we see if we look at the present times, we find that these times are very competitive. Organizations, enterprises, businesses need to innovate in order to stay relevant. And this often can open up a Pandora's box, especially as far as the regulatory landscape is concerned, compliances are concerned. Particularly, we have seen a flurry of activities on the technology side. The technology landscape has been very, very dynamic in the sense that we see the emergence of several new technologies, and every new technology, since it's a new thing, it brings in a new framework of compliance, regulations, all of that. Also because you never know what these new tools can bring in terms of vulnerabilities and making the systems prone to any such event. Now, with respect to that, that is the context against which we are going to talk about today, how enterprises are forced to stay relevant, and to do that they adopt new tools and technologies which are fraught with a lot of these concerns. So, to discuss that, we have a very knowledgeable and a senior technology professional amongst us. It's my pleasure to introduce Sunilkumar KN, Chief Legal and Compliance Officer at Federal Bank. Welcome to the show, Sunil. How are you doing?
Thank you, Mukul. I'm very well. Good.
We see that the technology landscape is dynamic. Enterprises have to adopt a lot of new technologies. So, what are the challenges that you see in this direction, particularly as far as the adoption of new technologies is concerned?
Yeah, there are 2-3 parts to it. When we look at the transformation of the banking, we are coming from the banking sector in the financial. So, the bankers have been treated primarily as the financial risk takers. So, that means an entrepreneur wants to make investments and start a new business opportunity. There is a financial risk. He may not have it, or even if finance is there, that risk is being transformed to the bank and bank is taking. And from where banks are getting this is basically the customers, depositors, millions of depositors' money. So, in that environment, it is a very, very tightly regulated environment entity for the banks. It is licensed. This is only entity who can take deposit from the public and on a secured or unsecured basis to that extent. Now, the banking has been transforming because there are 2 reasons. One is lot of technology development, the things are moving digitization. No longer, nobody may be now visiting your branch per se. 5
Nobody
years
does
back,
that.
Yeah,
Nobody
exactly
does that.
The thing. Everything is there on your mobile. Earlier we were actually even laptop, nothing is required to that extent.
True.
And things are even changing, that withdrawal of the cash, earlier ATM going, now nobody needs the cash. So everything is
Nobody even needs the ATM now.
Exactly, yeah. Then the second part is coming up, the customer configuration is also changing into, it's youngsters and who are all in this context, millionaires and all those things. What they want is an immediate solution. Earlier, just 20 years or 30 years back, if you ask your father, they were very clear. So, even if service is slow, my money to be protected. But the younger generation is not looking into that way, but they want the services very quick. And it is not. Banking is traditionally a service taking deposit and lending the money. Beyond that, it has gone. Whether now it is an insurance sale product and multiple services being offered by the banks. And actually, when approaching a bank on the website or through the mobile banking app, it is like a marketplace. What is the difference? If you are going to a mall and picking up your garments or this thing, now the financial products are available in that context. To do all these things, basically what is the driving force is the digitization. Of course, the government of India, and another biggest thing in India happened is that millions of customers were outside the banking system because they don't have identity document. That is where the Aadhaar changed the entire thing. Then every nook and corner of the customer is now having an ID document. That identity is created the bankability for them. The moment that bankability is a big market for the banks and business also. So the digitization and the identity, and this both from the government, regulated and the industry side, all these things are happening. Now the challenges are also coming up because ease of doing business, ease of getting multiple transactions for the customer, and the speed of the transaction. The same way to the customer, we have no capacity to actually look at transaction, see, hey, some problem is, something is wrong here. We have no opportunity. It is just for a fraction of a second, we call it as STP, straight through processing is happening. Then always fraudsters are there and they are one step ahead. Gullible customers are duped to that extent, say give the wrong links and the wrong calls, and what are the most critical confidential information are getting taken from them, and then they are actually milking the system and getting the money. So the one side definitely the fraud and the related risk to that extent. And second thing, from a regulatory side, the regulator expects, look, you are having the depositors' money and running, and you are taking the financial risk. So I want you to be clearly standing as outstander on the rules and perform it exactly in the same fashion. And then the transaction volume has increased into millions. When we were dealing with thousands, it's the millions it is coming up. That is where the biggest challenge is coming up. We need to meet the customer aspiration one side, the expectation of the regulator on the side, and the competitors' challenge also. If all these three coming into together, now bank has to evolve its own mechanism. At the same time, we should deliver and you be resilient. This is the biggest challenge.
I think you have brilliantly put it. I think that is the dilemma of today's age, particularly for banking institutions. You know, they are sandwiched between and torn between so many opposing forces, as you rightly pointed out: customer expectations, expectations of the regulator, the expectation to be avant-garde as far as new technologies is concerned, so many, and eventually to be resilient and be a guardian of the deposit that you have received. I think you have put it very nicely, and you have really painted the picture of the challenges that banking institutions face, particularly with respect to the regulatory and the compliance frameworks that we have. So, coming on to the SaaS point of view, you have had interesting and successful implementations. You have witnessed that from SaaS. How has your partnership with SaaS helped you, meet these regulatory and compliance requirements?
Basically, the regulatory position was that ever increasing number of regulator, because it is not only the central bank. Even I have got some letters from National Highway Authority. If you have lent to a project, what I have to do with the National Highway Authority? What I am saying is, it is not in a jovial term. Nearly 30-40 regulators are there, plethora of regulations and this thing, everything. With even not even a single transaction should fail like that, I have to meet. That is the first requirement. The point is that when I see the regulations, I have a mechanism to ensure that it's implemented properly. I have built the systems, controls, everything upfront. But still, definitely there are human touch points, and even systems can fail on certain things. And even if it is all working well also, when I have done our CUG and the pilot testing, the number is thousands. When it goes to 50,000, it will sustain. 1 lakh, it will sustain. So we have that velocity testing, everything is there. But when it moving into
the next level of scale,
then the system may not behave in this fashion. So these are all the problems we are coming up. And then when 2 years back, we had a discussion looking at into how we should do this thing and what should be the mechanism from a compliance perspective to see that. We can ensure the first level things are happening, but can I get an assurance that continuously it is working in that fashion? And from the regulatory side also very clear, no longer the manual process checking up these things are not going to work, data, and you have to depend on the data. That is the only thing we are having, because we are living in an era of a deep fake where you can make any document the copy better than the original. I'm not joking. What I'm saying
It's true,
is
it's
that
true. Yes, yes, yes. Deep fake technology is amazing.
a shipping company who has issued the bill of lading, a document, I checked with them 3 times. They erred. Finally, 4th time they could say, because when I supplied multiple data, how the transaction is moving, they agreed that it is a fake document. They could not, the originator of the document could not. Same is the case when, whether it's a Shah Rukh Khan's voice or Salman Khan's voice, or it's my voice, nobody can recognize. And even the pictorial depiction. This is the scenario we are coming up. In that context, when we look into, we have the data. Banks are the compendium of the data protector to that
Repository
extent. Depository of data. And one more thing, it's all concept is that is just contractor clients are all consenting, you have the data, everything with you, and the data is managed in a different systems, and even a lot of vendors all are involved into that extent. But still all these things are, the expectation is that as bank needs to ensure in one room things are all fine to that extent. So the analyzing this data, finding out the data, from there only we can, the data is the only trigger, and it will show whether it is just a symptom or is it a real alignment to that extent. That is where the discussion with the SAS when happened, how I being a compliance officer can ensure that my data, one is that what collected the data is not a garbage. It is possible because I have 1,500 branches, more than 15,000 employees. Anybody can do a mistake, even knowing, unknowingly also mistakes can happen, but I need to find out immediately. Otherwise, this will lie there. After 1 year, if I find out, I won't even know how to rectify it or change it. So the point is that one is data quality in the input needs to be ensured. Then when the processing has happening, during that time, with the same quality, the same data is getting processed and the result has come. There no mistakes are there, I need to ensure. So then the discussion, the suggestion came finally, let us have a continuous control system or a continuous compliance management system, a CCM system can be developed. So the whole idea is that entire data in different streams lies in different buckets. From there it all can be pooled in a data lake or a data management hub. And from there we can run the queries, analytics, and see that quality is there and what are the normal error points coming up, and the data can be generated in the other side and see the alerts to that extent. So this is very jargon way you may see that it's a pictorial, but let me take the simple example. If new customer comes and opens account somewhere in Himachal Pradesh, sitting in Kochi, I want to know whether all the information required from the customer has been collected by the branch and whether they have rightly input in the system. So we can set the parameters, and when this data lake runs, within 36 hours I will get that yes, the Shimla branch has opened one customer account without complete data. That is within 36 hours or 48 hours I am getting, I can immediately rectify. This is what the CCM mechanism which we discussed and we are implementing with the help of the SAS.
I think you are absolutely bang on with respect to the importance of data and how it is the biggest asset for the banking sector. And but it is an asset only when it is structured and in good condition. That is the reason why it is called the new oil. Data can be helpful, particularly it has to be helpful, and it is the biggest asset. And a lot of these emerging technologies, for example, the analytics framework, the artificial intelligence framework, all of that will depend on the quality of data that you feed into those systems and how they learn. I think that's a very valid point coming from you, Sunilkumar. So taking this a step ahead, how do you foresee the development of something like analytics, artificial intelligence really impacting organizations in the future?
When you need to do a data mining as well as the data analytics, naturally the thing is that you need to have that raw data, and that need to be sanctified to that extent and tested. And the important aspect is that these are setting the parameters, and based on that we would be able to early identify the issues. So how it is going to help in future, I will give you the final, before concluding the answer to this thing, what is the final stage what I am seeing. Comparably from a media person perspective, you can understand that. But what basically is happening is that we have the entire data pooled in a lake, and various types of queries can be run, analyzed, and based on that we have got the refined data, number one, problem areas another way, and then you can immediately track and close it. Right now what is happening is, to identify this mistake, I need to wait my audit team to go do an on-site visit 1 year after. This is within 48 hours you are seeing, and immediately you can rectify. And rectification is also the person on the ground level, he can get once, twice or thrice. Fourth time he would be careful to avoid these type of mistakes. So it is a culture wise, it will change the entire organization. What activity they are doing, they will be more careful, and they will be using their skill to ensure that these type of things are not happening. That is the way that change the culture of the organization itself. Traditionally in any office, the way in which it is being worked, people come in, see the laptops and see that emails and work on that. That is what going to change. No longer the compliance is going to work on the office environment to that. It will be exactly like your newsroom. You will be getting one side feed and the other side you are publishing it. Exactly the same way we are all looking at the monitor and see that, look, that area in the distant corner of Tamil Nadu, there is a problem coming up. And this is the lending you have classified in a particular way, there is a problem coming up. When 2 or 3 things are going to happen is that, one is this rectification. It is a simple thing. You found out a mistake, you rectify. But that may not be the reason. The root cause analysis, because why it is wrong. Because it is easy to say branch failed, or we didn't input the data, or we were not analyzing it. All these things, stories we can tell on an afterthought. But that is not the reason. If you are missing certain things, there could be some rationale or reason behind it. Either training may not be sufficient enough, or the fear factor or the commitment to that extent is not to that extent, or your process itself may not be effective. You just dropped for a paperwork the process. So any failure happens in bankers' terms or in the financial environment, even in the manufacturing, we will see why the failure happens. Even when Chandrayaan in the initial stage or our rockets are failing, the next 3 years what they are doing is only analyzing that root cause, why it failed. So that the root cause analysis, even in my world, when I looked into, to do a in-depth analysis and find out the real problem, it takes 2 to 3 months. The advantage with this thing, the number of incidents what is coming up and the problematic areas coming up, it is very easy for us. Our timeline of 3 months can be reduced into 3 days or 4 days to actually identify the root cause and correct it. So once the root cause is corrected, naturally the problem will not repeat to that extent. So when I was in Singapore, we usually used to say that there the process wise everything is very, very perfectly matched. As of course we say that human face what we are seeing in India we may not have. But what we realize is that we are moving into one direction as far as the financial sector is concerned. Clearly we need to have a flawless process to that extent. Process is good, it will run like a machine, no need for an human interference. What we are trying in the industry is to make that process efficient and it run like a machine, and the human input is required in only the essential stages where the decisions to be taken to that extent. All other aspects can be managed with this thing. So that is the whole big picture, is we are moving away from this current office environment to that, see that you can spot the issues on the screen and clearly find out the root cause and rectify it on time.
True, true. I think very well put. Going forward, organizations will have to, devise processes that can identify root causes, and all of this will depend on the kind of data that you have, the kind of analytics that you run on it, and of course it will all run like a well-oiled machinery without human interference. And this could all lead to a more secure, a more robust financial system. There's no doubt about it. Thanks a lot, Sunil, for sharing your views with us today. It's been a lovely discussion. So we have touched upon various diverse aspects of the challenges that confront banking and financial institutions, and you have very well shed light on how they could all lead to a more secure, a more robust regulatory and compliance framework and response from organizations in this domain. Thank you very much for joining us today.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mukbil. It is very interesting discussion. So the bankers are not only the guardians of the deposit, but we want to be the actual guardian of the faith of the customer. Trust.
True. I think trust is the crux of the entire thing. Very well put. With this, we come to the end of this discussion.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much.